Season 1, Episode 6. I'm hanging out with Carrie Tuttle at Kensington Studio. We're talking about her new business, Team Mojo. We also talk about her world travels, the art of glamping, and it wouldn't be complete without hearing about her Big Hairy Audacious Goal. You can find her online at LinkedIn and soon through her new Team Mojo website. I'm your host, Michael Dean Dargy. Season 1, Episode 6, The Big Hairy Audacious Goal on RebelRebel. I'm here with Carrie Tuttle at the Kensington Studio of the RebelRebel podcast, and we're sitting here with a cold glass of Fitzsimmons Blonde beer.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks so much for coming over.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure, really.
Oh, that's good. Oh my goodness. Fitzsimmons is brewed
really good
out of Airdrie, and they're great friends of the podcast.
Oh, cool.
So here we are in the heart of Kensington, downtown Calgary. Carrie, you've started this crazy journey a while back, and you're running a company called Team Mojo.
Yeah.
Right now, right? Like this is an entrepreneur's dream.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Oh, it's such an evolution, really. I started my career, I guess, in sales and marketing. And so what's interesting is I started in a marketing concentration at university at U of C.
Yep.
And then after I was done, first I took a gap year. I'll start there.
Oh, good.
I went to Korea and taught English. And then I went to New Zealand and worked on a ski hill. So I really got my, my wiggles out, if you want to put it that way, and just, scratch the travel itch. And I had to get, I felt like I had to get more perspective on the world than just what's happening in Calgary or Alberta, the oil and gas sector. I needed a more international perspective.
Yeah.
And that accomplished that goal for me.
Nice.
Then when I came back, I thought, okay, let's get serious here.
Yeah.
And I started working for a market research firm called Service Intelligence, which you know well. And that was a great experience, partly because it was a smaller organization. So even at our biggest, we were about 100 people. Yeah. But for the majority of the 6 years I was there, it was around 75 people.
Yeah.
So I could wear a lot of hats. I could learn a lot of different roles.
Yeah.
I was at a pretty young age consulting with Fortune 500 companies across the US and Canada, traveling a lot, probably 6 to 8 times a year, traveling to Philadelphia, New York, Seattle, San Francisco. Yeah. So these were cities where a lot was happening in a lot of different sectors. So Philadelphia was like the convenience industry, petro-convenience industry, and like the tech in Seattle. So it just gave me a really well-rounded view of what was happening in the economy and in the world. Yeah. And then options for how do I want to show up in the world? What do I want to bring to the world? So marketing, I moved up within the organization and ended up being on the leadership team, which was, again, another challenge. I was able to manage a team and had the opportunity to really set a vision and say, okay, how are we going to get to this vision as a team? Right. So all of these roles gave me the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, but within the safety net of having a salary, which appealed to me a lot. Oh, sure. Yeah, and just because we do share some of that history, Service Intelligence was just such a great breeding ground for creative, talented people to flourish and do stuff. And for you to do the things that you did there is fantastic. And I'm sure it served you well. I think I got the foundation of what consulting means. And what it means to really understand a client's whole business. So not just the problem that they brought to us today, but what are they trying to accomplish? What is the vision or where they're trying to get to? So what's interesting is I then, after Service Intelligence, it was bought, sold several times. I had 5 CEOs in 6 years.
I know that story.
And so once it was moved, the whole office was moved to the US, so I was forced to find something else. And I thought, I must need to climb the corporate ladder. That must be what I need on my resume, right?
Yeah.
And even though all of that time I really wanted to be an entrepreneur, I wasn't quite ready to make the leap.
So let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Like, what is it that you felt that, like, what does an entrepreneur mean to you? Like, what was that drive that you were feeling at the time? Like, can you put that into words? Do you know what it tastes like?
Yeah, no, but it was like an itch.
Yeah, okay.
All the time. It was like, you know the sound of a mosquito when it's in your tent?
Yeah.
And it's like,
yes.
That's the best way I can describe it. It was just like this annoying little sound in the background that I couldn't quite put my finger on.
Yeah.
And I could wave my arms all over the place, but I couldn't quite catch it.
Yeah.
And it's because at that time, I still hadn't figured myself out.
Gotcha.
So I didn't know exactly, even if I had an idea for a product or a service, I didn't know my why. And if you don't know your why, you're going to be totally unfocused and I'm still discovering my why. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, we all are. Hopefully we continue to do so forever and ever.
Well, and I think that's why we see entrepreneurs pivot all the time, because I think you're forced, as an entrepreneur, you're forced to look inside and peel back the layers of the onion and say, what's underneath? And especially when you hit a brick wall, you're forced to look at yourself and ask, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I fighting so hard?
Right. Do I want to fight? Like, is this, like you're talking about, how do I want to show up in the world?
Yeah.
Is that the world that you want, is to fight all the time and struggle and...
Yeah, and if you are fighting, maybe there's something that you're not doing, something you're doing that's not in alignment with who you are.
Right.
And that's why it's not working out.
Yeah.
Because I'll just go back to the story and then come around back to this point. Because when I thought I needed to climb the corporate ladder, there were good and bad decisions that I made. So I thought I needed a really recognizable name brand on my resume.
Right.
So I did exactly that. I went and worked for American Express.
That's pretty big.
Yeah, and no explaining what they do, right? In a conversation, I meet somebody at a restaurant, they're, asking, what do you do? I say American Express, they know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
So I thought that was important. I thought that I would grow within a multinational corporation and that would meet my needs somehow. And it really didn't. And it's no disrespect to the organization, because it's a great organization.
Yeah.
It was not what I needed in the moment.
Right.
But it fulfilled other needs. So I learned very clearly how to sell in a B2B environment.
Yeah.
And coming from the marketing background, I was probably a little out of touch with, what does the customer actually want? How do I speak to the customer in terms that they understand, that make them want to open their wallet and sign a contract?
Right.
So that is a very important skill as an entrepreneur.
Sure.
And not only that, I was networking within the Alberta community, which I didn't really have at Service Intelligence. I was building relationships with people all over North America, but what about locally?
Yeah.
Right? What does the local market need? What is happening with businesses within Alberta?
Yeah.
So it was very valuable experience being at American Express, and they treated me very well. I also worked from home. Oh, so this is another thing. Yeah, this is a whole other ball of wax.
You don't get to see this, but her eyes just lit up when she said, and I got to work from home.
Yeah, well, you get to work from home.
Yeah.
Often salespeople do. And there's pros and cons to that.
Sure.
Similar to being an entrepreneur, you're on your own. You're an island.
Yep.
And what do you do when you hit that 3:00 lull on Tuesday and your work week's not even half over?
Fallout 4 on PlayStation.
Well, everybody has a coping strategy.
Sure, yeah.
So for some people, it's a meditation.
Right.
For others, it's go for a walk. For others, it's pick up the phone and talk to a customer or a colleague.
Yeah.
For others, it's take a nap.
Sure.
And it depends on the week.
Yeah.
So the reality of working on your own is that you have to become self-motivated.
Right.
So this comes back to the why.
Gotcha.
And what I realized is that the product was not as important to me, but people still were.
What do you mean exactly?
When I was at American Express.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
So people still were important to me, and relationships are important to me.
Yeah.
So that led me to decide, learn, whatever, manifest coaching in my life. And I decided I felt to have integrity, I really wanted to have training.
Yeah.
And I pursued the training while still working at American Express. And then...
so you're taking coaching training?
Yeah.
Like to be a business coach or a personal coach?
Both.
Okay.
I mean, you're always treating the whole person, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not different at work than we are at home.
Yeah.
But yes, there's coach training.
Do you mind a quick little side step here?
Sure.
Like, what is it that inspired you to get into coaching?
Well, I see it as similar to going and seeing a psychologist. When we're stuck in our lives, we sometimes need another perspective.
Right.
Or we may know what we want, but we need somebody to hold us accountable.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And that really is, both of those are what coaches do.
Yeah. And that's what inspired you to do it. And that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because mental health is really important to me, it always has.
Yeah.
I just didn't see how important until probably the last few years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So you went and took this training.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give them a plug? Like, where'd you take this training?
I took my training through CTI, which stands for Coaches Training International. And it's a company based out of California. They offer training all over the world.
Wow.
I was going to say North America, but all over the world.
Yeah.
And they are accredited through the International Coaches Federation, which any coach worth their salt wants to be certified and accredited through there.
Oh, interesting.
So they take training from schools that are accredited through ICF.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
I had no idea it was that big of a thing.
Well, it is, and it's a profession that is quite misunderstood.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will call themselves a coach without having any training whatsoever, which I feel is not very ethical.
Yeah, a little disingenuous.
Not only that, but people are vulnerable. When somebody comes to me, I have a coaching client later today who is going through a divorce.
Yeah.
And so it's more of a personal story than a business story, but most of my clients are business. She is telling me all these things about her marriage and how she feels about it and how she's reacting to it and parenting. And that's a vulnerable place.
Totally.
I have a responsibility to know that the tools I'm using are going to take her to the place she wants to go.
Right.
And not leaving her in a vulnerable place where she's feeling broken and could make some bad decisions.
Right. Interesting. Mm-hmm. I'm fascinated by it. And so Team Mojo, like this is your new venture.
Yeah.
And it's a coaching venture.
It is. I would say it starts with team facilitation.
Yeah.
So because I've been on both sides, the marketing and the sales side, I also see that those teams are quite far apart most of the time in their approach, in their ideology, in how much respect they have for one another.
Yeah.
So I see a great opportunity for companies to bring those teams together, work in lockstep towards a combined or united vision.
Yeah.
And then knock their targets out of the park. Right. That's the goal.
And so why Mojo?
Well, I know that there's a certain point in time when I didn't have a lot of mojo at work. And there's a lot of people who suffer from the same thing.
Mojo-lessness.
Yeah, mojo-lessness. That's exactly it. I haven't branded that. I think I should use that in some of my social media.
It is yours. Hashtag mojo-lessness.
Thank you. Yeah. But I do know that when you have your mojo, you know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can feel it.
Yeah.
And you can actually see somebody who's got mojo.
Yeah.
Coming towards you.
They have a spring in their step. Yeah. They got a swagger.
Got mojo swagger.
Yeah. And a team that has mojo, I think, is they have trust, but they have energy. Yeah. Like it's like a light energy about them. Yeah. And it seems easier to get things done when you have this lift in energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to say this right off the bat. You are so freaking brave. Like, watching you show up in the world and create this stuff is absolutely inspiring.
Thank you.
because this is not an easy thing that just shows up and you go, hey, you know what? I'm going to start a business.
Yeah, no.
Right? Because, I mean, you talked about your Surface Intelligence time, your American Express, this itch, this mosquito that was happening. And, you know, you're a fantastic coach for individuals. And then to arrive at, I'm going to take all these things that are so meaningful and bring the mojo back. And then create a company around it is, it's fantastic.
Thanks.
Like I'm super stoked for you.
Well, I think the word I would use instead of brave is because brave is almost like a label someone assigns to something.
Sure. Okay.
But I think it's choosing courage.
Okay.
So we have fear probably in everyday life, but especially when it comes to putting yourself out there financially and putting yourself out there where people can judge you.
Right.
And choosing courage anyway.
Yeah.
In the face of judgment is what helps us move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point.
This is where I'm gonna show up as a coach geek.
Okay.
There are about 7 emotions that have a negative vibratory frequency.
Okay.
Like anger,
Yeah.
fear,
Yeah.
shame, hopelessness. All of those ones have a negative vibratory frequency. And so when you feel those emotions, you can actually get sick. You can feel sick. Your stomach churns.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anxiety
And there are a lot of scientists who believe that this is part of the thing that holds or has cancer. When you hold those emotions, they start to, those cells break down, and then they start to multiply. So the thing that takes you from that negative vibratory frequency over into positive emotions like hope, joy, happiness, all of those things, is courage.
Right.
It's the one choice of emotion that takes you into the positive.
Right.
So imagine if you have anger about, give me an example actually of something you have anger about.
My next door neighbor is building a house.
Right.
There's a lot of anger towards these guys and how they're doing it.
Yeah.
We've been locked in our backyard because they just put the construction fence against our gate.
Right.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
So knowing that that's causing you anger, what is a courageous thing that you could do about that?
A courageous thing I could do about that.
Yeah.
Well, I did try coaching him on how to manage his construction site better.
How did that work?
He's absent.
Oh.
So he's a general contractor that never shows up. So my first 3 outreaches were, hey, been here, done that. Here's what you should be doing to manage your site better so that you don't piss off your neighbors. Because we're actually looking over your job site like 24/7.
Yeah.
And he was just like, yeah. It's lip service, right? Because he's not doing this full time. He's an accountant full time, doing this part time. I'm living this nightmare full time.
Right.
So he ignored 3 times, and on the 4th time that I got locked into the backyard, I got really upset. And it's not in my nature to yell, but I tore a strip off this guy like you have never seen before. I was so hot under the collar. And anyway, so then he got it sorted, and the job site has been running great. Like, and we had talked after, because I was like, I'm sorry I lost my shit.
Yeah.
But you pushed me to a limit.
Yeah.
Like you were just being rude and inconsiderate, and I'm here to help you, and I've got to live with this, so I want a symbiotic relationship.
Well, and that's courageous. So the polite thing that we often do is just, oh, would you mind, being a little quieter, or we try and be polite, but yet it doesn't actually get anything done. Not that you have to lose your shit on people all the time.
Yeah, I hope not, because it takes a lot of energy out of you.
Yeah.
Like I was fit to be tied for a day after that.
Ideally, you go to a coach first and lose your shit in the context of the coaching session, and then you come away with a clear head of what to do. But, being courageous means communicating how you're feeling.
Yeah.
That's courageous.
Ah, good.
Yeah. Telling people, you know what, I'm angry because I think that you're not respecting your neighbors.
Yeah.
Huh. So in the context of an entrepreneur, choosing courage over status quo, over feeling trapped.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Is a new way of being.
Yeah.
It's showing up differently in the world.
That's cool. That's inspiring. We got postponed today because they were filling in the gravel last week. And I had sent him a note on Friday saying, what are your plans Monday? Because I didn't want this to happen again. I didn't want us to get sidetracked. And he was just like, oh, we're going to be backfilling on Monday. I'm like, so I asked him, because now we've got this rapport. Right now he's listening because it's important to him and it's important to me. And I was just like, would you mind not backfilling Monday, because I've got, recordings happening all day.
Yeah.
And it would be great if you could just postpone it till Tuesday. He was like, done.
Wow.
Which is great.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's communication is so important.
Yes. Communication between, and then so going back to Team Mojo, the idea is that with teams, helping to facilitate better communication allows teams to work better together. And so going also back to the virtual work environment that salespeople have.
Right.
Some marketing people are stuck in the office all day, every day.
Yeah.
And both sides make assumptions about what it's like to be in that role.
Oh, it's like the resentment kind of.
Yeah, a little bit of resentment, I would say, for a lot of teams. Yeah. The salespeople are thinking, well, you're just coming up with these plans and you're actually promising stuff we can't deliver on.
Right.
Because you're not talking to the client, you don't realize what it means to them.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the marketing people are saying, well, you salespeople they think they're over-promising too.
Right.
And you're not even in the office. We don't even know if you're working.
You got an expense account.
Yeah, you got an expense account. You make commission.
Yeah.
So, but it's set up that way because they have different goals.
Sure.
The goal of marketing is to invite all the guests to the party and let them know when it's happening.
Yeah.
The role of sales is to greet them at the door and be a good host.
Yeah. Interesting. Same event.
Yes. Same goal.
Same goal.
Create a great experience for your guests.
Right.
That's the goal for both sides. But they play a different role.
Right. So Team Mojo will bring those teams together.
That's right.
And have them working together.
Yeah. That's
amazing. And so how have you found this out in the marketplace?
I have found that, I think that there's definitely a need for larger organizations. I don't know if it's that they don't think there's as much of a problem or not, but I find for that mid-sized organization, this is the perfect solution for them because it's, an intense full-day session usually.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of team building. There's a lot of learning. Yeah. So there's presenting of theory. There's interaction. It's probably 80% interaction, 80 to 90%, and sharing, and people feeling heard. Right. I think that's one of the biggest problems is that you go about your day and you're busy, and you have these quick interactions that are like, oh yeah, I got your note about what the new strategy is. I'll do it. I'll deal with it later.
Right.
Or marketing people often, they want feedback from sales. Like, okay, you said you needed some more sales tools. Is this the right wording? Right. And then the salespeople won't get back to them right away. Why? Because they're incented on commission. They need to be in front of the client.
Right.
So, it's facilitating better communication so that they understand how each of their parts fits in and accomplishes the vision.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have you packaged your mojo up into?
I would say it's evolving. So it's sort of like, I said that we pivot as we learn more about ourselves. Yeah. I find that as I'm talking to clients, I'm adjusting. Yeah, okay. So right now I call it kind of customized. Yeah. But I'm probably going to come to a point where it's more packaged and more I don't want to say cookie cutter because it's never cookie cutter, but
right. Well, you want to have it.
There's core principles
that you're always going to
included. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
And I think the core principle really is interacting with the two teams and getting them working together on a common goal. Yeah. So one of the activities that I sometimes do is you have it looks like a game board and there's a road on the
like game
board.
Of life kind of thing.
Yeah, a game of life. And so then there's a Sharpie and there's strings tied to the Sharpie. Okay. So you have two salespeople and two marketing people ideally. Yeah. And each of them holds one of the strings. And then all four of them have to pull equally and communicate with each other.
Oh,
otherwise the
interesting.
pen drops and falls off the road.
Huh.
And so it's a windy road. They have to get the pen from the beginning to the end.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a cool exercise. It's really awesome, actually.
That's amazing.
Yeah, works really well.
What's one of your sort of favorite success stories?
Favorite success stories.
Yeah, like or something that has happened while you're either coaching or engaging teams or companies that left you feeling inspired.
Yeah, one of the ones I would say it was actually a marketing company, and that's what's ironic here.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. And one of the things that I think they didn't understand was when you go back to when you said packaging, salespeople were communicating to the clients, and they were targeting small companies, so entrepreneurs and kind of new-ish startups that were really good at what they did but didn't know how to market themselves. So selling them marketing services, the salespeople were asking them, well, what are you good at? What are your skills? Where do you need help? Where are you trying to get to? That kind of thing. And the marketing people didn't realize that most of these entrepreneurs needed a package that looked like customize, manage all of my social media, create my website, do all the work for me.
Gotcha.
But then there was another subset of customers that needed a DIY solution. So tell me where to go, but I'll do the work myself.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And once we had this alignment session, they really figured out, because they were talking to each other about what customers were saying, they really figured out that, okay, marketing needs to package something that has a set price and it's a set package of what you get, a set format, and then they could repeat it, and they could sell the crap out of that.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they, the gurus or whatever, actually my mentors always say, find what you do well and do it again and again and again.
Right. Yeah.
And that was a perfect example of where they were trying to customize everything they did.
Interesting.
And it didn't make sense.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. Cool. Let me ask you about camping.
Oh, camping.
Take it
You
out of the
mean
word.
glamping?
Glamping. Yeah, because I think one of the cool things, and you touched on it earlier about being an entrepreneur, is that you do end up controlling your schedule a lot more.
Yeah, you do.
Than 9 to 5. Now, sometimes you are 18 hours a day.
Right.
But you do have the opportunity to go glamping.
Well, this is part of my why.
Yeah. Okay.
So one of the reasons I wanted to leave my full-time role was I did want more flexibility to manage my schedule. I have a son who's 3.
Yeah.
And as I was doing my coach training, I was working at 8:00 after he went to bed till 10:30 at night.
Yeah.
And then doing my full-time job. And what I really wanted was, okay, I don't mind working in the evening, but I want to take Friday off, or maybe every Friday, maybe every second Friday.
Yeah.
And make a long weekend for myself so my son and I can go camping.
Nice.
And hang out by the lake and dig in the sand with his dump trucks and, and that is definitely one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur.
Right.
There's certainly sometimes feast and famine.
Yeah.
But I've been lucky enough to secure a couple of contracts that really keep the steady money going.
Yeah, anchor clients.
Yeah, anchor clients for sure. And then that gives me the freedom to develop like the Mojo packages that I'm working on.
Small Mojo.
Little Mojo, lot of Mojo.
Right. Mojo.
Big Mojo.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, I think that's the beauty. If you can tolerate the risk and tolerate the cycles, the highs and lows, then what you get out of that is the benefit of, being your own boss, making decisions about who you want to work with as a client.
And that's so huge.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have clients that aren't aligned with your values and your what's important to you, you shouldn't work with them.
No, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And this might be one of the first times I've heard it said on this podcast, but being able to choose your clients is critical.
Yeah.
Like for my sanity, I know it is. And it's great to voice that, because
I can't imagine working for a client who's a bully,
Yeah.
or who is undervaluing my contribution to the point that I feel resentful working for them.
Right.
And if I do, I have not set the boundary for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm undervaluing myself.
Okay, Coach Carrie. How so the people that are, you know, listening to this podcast, some might be entrepreneurs, some might be thinking about it,
Yeah.
some might be like in the throes of business transition or pivots. What advice would you give to people for finding their value or communicating their value?
Well, first you have to be clear on what is the value you're bringing.
Right.
And is there a market for it? Assuming those things are true, communicating value involves opening the kimono a little bit and letting your client know how much work goes into what you've produced.
Right.
So you know, as a marketer yourself, you might show up with a big shiny report, but they may not realize that there's 40 hours of analysis, strategizing, and writing that's gone into that. And they need to know that.
Yeah.
And they need to know the timeline that's involved in all of that. So that's part of the value that they then see. And I think it's owning it, knowing that that's valuable. And if you start discounting yourself, they're going to discount your value too.
Right. A great point. Yeah. So I guess not showing up small is a thing.
Yeah. Choosing courage, right? And having a vision for yourself. What's your big, awesome goal?
Right.
Right? What's that expression? Big, hairy, audacious goal.
Big, hairy, audacious goal. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your big, hairy, audacious goal? Can I ask that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, do I have to declare it in front of everyone? That's cool. I would love to give a TED Talk one day.
Awesome.
That's one of my goals. Yeah.
Damn.
That's a big one.
That's fantastic.
Yes. I've got some others that I won't share, but that's
that's
cool
significant.
one.
Yeah. Holy shit.
I know.
Yeah, I like it. What does the next 3 months look like for you, do you think? And let's talk work-life balance. So work and life. Like, what does that look like?
It's summer, so there's going to be a lot of camping. Glamping in my trailer, at the lake. No, we don't say we're going to the trailer. My friends and I say, oh, we'll see you at the lake.
Oh, very nice. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Have a picnic by the lake.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of lake time this summer and just enjoying time with my son. I told myself that 2018 was going to be the year of fun.
Nice.
And so far I'm doing pretty well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the next 3 months is really building my brand, building my business, building the packages, building the definition of what the different services look like.
Yeah.
And otherwise, it's delivery on the contracts I've got.
Yeah, that's great.
And growing those.
Cool.
You know what they say, getting more business from existing clients is a lot cheaper and easier than trying to get new clients.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
the cost of client acquisition can be horrifying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just building those relationships and making sure that they're solid, and
cool.
That's the next 3 months.
Huh. Tell me about you've got a list of stuff.
Oh.
Is there some things that I haven't asked about yet?
No, the only other thing I would add is I think as we mature, we learn to trust our gut.
Yeah.
And when I first thought about being an entrepreneur, it was, I'm going to say 8 years ago.
Right.
I've been thinking about it for a long time, and it took really trusting myself and knowing that the universe, this is going to sound really airy-fairy, but the universe will take care of me.
Yeah.
You know, like when I chose to go teach English in Korea, that could have fallen apart. I could have ended up with no job. They could have sent me home and say, you know, see you later. But it all worked out. And it's because I was really specific about what I wanted.
Right.
I went not trying to get away from anything here. All I wanted was an adventure.
Yeah.
And all I cared about was enough money that I could fly home again at the end.
Perfect.
I wasn't trying to get rich. I wasn't trying to send money home to the family or you know, marry a Korean guy or something like that. Like, all I wanted to do was experience what the world had to offer there and have an adventure.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I was clear on that.
Yeah.
And it all happened.
Right.
So for a long time, I wasn't really clear on what I wanted to do as an entrepreneur. And that's why nothing ever kind of came to fruition. And
Right.
I didn't take a leap because I knew I wasn't ready.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head where you knew you weren't ready. But I think the universe looked after things.
Right.
But you're a large part of that universe.
That's right. You need to take action.
Right. It's not just about going, okay, I'm ready, and then it all working out, because that's not been my experience.
Because even before I quit my role at American Express, I was networking. I was looking into contract opportunities. I had a lot of, feelers out there in the world to find out, well, what can I take on that'll help pay the bills while I figure out the business side of things. And in the meantime, I was still trying to figure out the business side of things.
Yeah.
So I was juggling a lot. There was a lot to juggle.
Yeah.
And once you're really clear on, this is what I want to do, this is how I see it kind of working out, at least in the short term.
Yeah.
You might not see 5-10 years out in the future. You only need to see the next 6 months to a year.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
At least for now. It's good to have goals, but you don't have to see how.
Yeah, well, because, I love your Big Hairy Audacious Goal of doing a TED Talk.
Yeah.
It's hard to set a date when that might be.
Right.
But it's good to have that in mind and be like, you know what, I'm going to do these series of talks. That's going to, hone my message.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do a TEDx Calgary.
But I think people get afraid of taking the leap because they don't know how it's all going to happen.
Yeah, well, and your advice is?
My advice is, you don't need to know how.
Yeah.
You don't.
It'll look after itself.
It will figure itself out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you read Robert Munch books?
Not really.
No?
I should, because I have a 3-year-old, but...
Yeah, okay. What stories do you read your 3-year-old?
Oh, one of our favorites. Okay, probably my favorite.
Yeah, there you go. This is what's important.
I know. It's not about what their favorite is, but it's I Love You to the Moon and Back.
Oh,
and it's
love that.
The little bunnies. Yeah, the big nut brown hair and little nut brown hair.
Yeah.
And the big nut brown hair has really big arms. I wish I had arms that long. I wish I could hop that high.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie of all time?
Yeah.
Oh,
or you can give me like a top.
Forrest Gump.
Oh, you went right for the Gump.
Forrest Gump.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time because I think what it represents is people underestimating others.
Right.
And in his case, he has a bit of a disability.
Yeah.
But he doesn't see that it's a disability.
Right.
He doesn't.
Does the stuff anyways.
And it's not even that he saw a possibility or that he dreamed of it. He just said, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
He didn't see any limitations.
Interesting.
And as an entrepreneur, we can't see those limitations either. All we see, if you look for the brick wall, it will be there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like the double slit experiment.
Yes.
It changes when you observe it.
That's right.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Favorite band of all time?
I'm not going to make an excuse. Okay. My favorite band of all time is Collective Soul.
Okay.
Yeah. I own I don't even buy that much music, but I own 5 of their CDs.
Uh-huh.
And for some reason, even though I've ripped all of music onto my computer, I cannot get rid of those 5 CDs.
Wow.
I still have the physical CD.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I just went and saw them at the Grey Eagle. Well, I guess it was almost 2 years ago now, but...
Bucket list, have you seen them before?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I've seen them a couple times.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite food?
Probably sushi.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give a shout out to your favorite sushi place in Calgary? Do you have one?
I can't remember what it's called.
Oh.
Favorite sushi?
Kinjo's?
Kinjo.
Kinjo's?
Yeah, Kinjo Sushi.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the one on McLeod, though, not the other.
Right, the
locations.
original.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I see Peter every once in a while on the Brentwood one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of hilarious. It makes me laugh that Kinjo Sushi used to be a Tim Hortons.
Right. I know. Yeah. There's so many people that don't know that's a thing.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird and small. And then he comes around and gives you the Pocky sticks. Yeah.
And then it mocks you.
Well, mocks the men. Yeah, he charms the women, and he gives you extra sometimes just to spite the man.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah,
Peter
he's
Kinjo.
a charmer.
Yeah, you're a gem, Calgary gem. Last thing, your favorite vacation location?
Thailand.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I love that it's not perfect. It's perfectly imperfect.
Give me one thing that an entrepreneur can do right now that's going to make the difference. You don't know where they're at. It's just a thing. They want to be like, what's a thing? What's your one piece of advice?
Believe that you have something special to offer the world.
Perfect. And on that note, we'll close it up. Carrie Tuttle, thank you so much for joining us on the Rebel Rebel podcast in Kensington Studio.
Thank you for having me. I love the idea of even being considered a Rebel Rebel.
Coming up next week, Dallas Paquette's in the studio talking about his kick-ass company, Lift Renovations, and the insane rocket-like growth in the past year across 3 provinces. He's been around a year, 3 provinces. Check out next week's episode of Rebel Rebel every Monday.